The reason is that Florens is from South Africa.
Yes.
And if we want to talk with him, we'd better do it in English.
Well, ek kan Afrikaans praat, maar dit is 'n klein beetje grappig vir jou.
Ja, dan wordt het... then it becomes a stand-up show.
We don't
want to do that, right? Florens is a successful photographer, especially in the field of how do you call it in English?
Destination weddings.
Destination weddings, yeah. And the other person I'm going to talk to, I am very sorry, I have forgotten your name.
I know, it's obviously who's the star of this panel. My name is Eve. Sorry?
You're in the middle.
I'm in the middle, yes. My name is Eefje Koppers and I'm the chef-redactie of the Dutch wedding magazine Bruid and Bruidegom magazine.
My idea is that I give each of the speakers, let's say, 5-10 minutes to introduce themselves a bit. And then it's getting into a kind of double interview.
Ladies first.
Well, thank you very much.
Once we're busy, I'm going to take a look at you every now and then and see if you would be curious to ask some questions yourself. And I guess the speakers are open to that.
Absolutely.
Florens, we already...
See, you get to start.
Go from left to right.
Okay.
Because I thought you're the photographer, you're the one who could show some pictures, just to get a bit to get the thing running. You were born and raised in South Africa to start with.
I was born in Durban on the east coast of South Africa, which is a surfing lifestyle city. It's a really tropical climate, so we do sugarcane and bananas and all that kind of stuff. So it's palm trees and a little bit like Miami, except a little bit more crime, but kind of like Miami. I was born in 1971, so I'm 44 years old. And when I finished school, just through conscription, I went to do my military service. And I ended up in the police force because they split you up. You know, half of you go to the police and half of you go to the Wehrmacht. And I ended up in the police force in the riot unit during the apartheid era, when there were a lot of political demonstrations, township violence, politically motivated crimes. And we were patrolling the townships for a year or so. And what happened really was that the violence escalated leading up to the elections quite a lot, and there was a need for a photographic unit within the riot unit because we were getting paid danger pay to be in the townships, and the forensic photographers that worked in the city weren't paid danger pay to go into the townships, so they were not prepared to go into the townships. So they asked people in the riot unit who wanted to become a photographer. And nobody really volunteers because the criminals who are doing things wrong don't like you because you're gathering evidence. And your police friends don't like you either because maybe there's a riot or there's a gathering going on and they're acting maybe a little bit too enthusiastically about their job.
That's how you might call it, yes.
Yeah? And I'm filming them doing things that maybe they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
So you don't have friends on that side and you don't have friends on that side. So nobody really volunteered. Until they said that you get your own car,
and that's then
that's when I said, that's me. And
what car?
The attraction, well, the police, just a police van. We call it a bakkie. Okay.
Yeah, bakkie, yeah.
Like a bakfiets, but the bak is on the back.
Yeah.
So And literally prior to that, I had no photographic inclination whatsoever. I mean, in terms of creativity, I could barely draw a stick figure. I really wasn't interested. The only reason I volunteered was that we got your own car. And if I look back on it now, the way I see it is, you know, if they had needed a mechanic at the time, today I'd be a mechanic. They needed a chef, today I'd be a chef, because it was my way of getting out of being a policeman. I knew I wasn't going to be a policeman for the rest of my life.
Yes.
So I started selling pictures that I was exposed to the newspapers, to Associated Press, to Newsweek and all of that.
You were allowed to do that?
No.
Okay.
I was a policeman. You don't make any money as a policeman. We were eating popcorn and drinking filter coffee. You know, springmelies, popcorn.
Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
We were
Well,
eating popcorn from like the 6th of the month onwards because it's cheap and it makes you full because
Yeah.
you don't earn very much money. So I was selling pictures quietly to Associated Press, to Newsweek. We were shooting film at the time. So I bought my
Yeah,
own
sure.
film and I took my pictures and I took that roll out my pocket, put it in my pocket, and I put the state film into the camera, shoot and then give the state that roll, and I take this roll to the newspapers.
Great.
Okay.
And nobody discovered you were cheating a bit.
My boss knew what I was doing,
Yes.
but I never portrayed the police in a bad light. And I
Okay.
always got my story to the newspapers before the people that were complaining about the police action because I had a car, right? And they had to catch a bus or something.
Yeah.
So I would get to the
Yeah.
I would get to the newspapers
Yeah.
before that. So I was selling pictures to the newspapers.
So basically, you became a photojournalist.
Yes.
Yes.
And I was taking pictures of dead people.
Yeah.
It was pretty much the worst
Yeah.
day of their life. I know it sounds, maybe some people don't find this very funny, but we used to joke about it and say, when people ask you what you do, I say, no, I'm a still life photographer.
But it was, we're making jokes about it now, but it was a bloody serious business, right? In
It
those
was
days.
ridiculously
Yeah,
serious.
yeah.
And if I look back on it now, if I had known how much part of history I actually was in,
Yes.
I would have shot so much more and I would have shot so differently as well. I still have all my negatives. And, well, okay, now that we're getting personal and intimate over here,
Yeah.
and you're saying that we were joking about it, it was pretty heavy, and we were drinking every single day. Policemen in South Africa, it's not a cool lifestyle. And I was drunk every single day.
Well, man.
Until a point where I decided I can't live like this anymore and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And this year, I've been sober 20 years. It's 2 decades that I've been sober. I went on the program and I've been sober 20 years this year. And to celebrate my sobriety, I'm actually having an exhibition of all my old dead body disgusting work
Yes.
up in contrast with my new wedding work.
Yeah.
And it's basically in Dutch, it's going to be Brett Florens in oorlog, tussen oorlog en liefde.
Yes.
And in English, it's Love and War. Brett Florens in Love and War.
It's a tricky combination.
Well, I mean, I think the extremes are, it's the complete antithesis of our existence. This is the worst day of your life,
Yes.
and this is the best day of your life.
Yeah.
And me having been exposed to all of that, I think has grown me as a person because I know how bad things can really get. Just like we were chatting a little earlier on about, are you tired or how's it going? It's like,
Yeah.
this is luxury. This is
Yes, of course.
So I've been exposed to all of that, and then after 1994, after the elections happened and the international press just disappeared.
Yeah.
It's not a story anymore because the elections have happened. Everything was peaceful. The whole world was expecting a black-white war,
Yes.
and it never happened. I mean, Mandela was the most amazing leader and the most incredible human being, probably one of the most influential people that have ever lived.
Yes.
And he orchestrated the peaceful transition in terms of black and white. There was a massive black-on-black war that was going on that the rest of the world didn't really want to know about, to an extent where in 1995, on Christmas Day, there was a massacre that happened in a certain area where there were 22 people killed in one homestead, in one house.
Yeah.
22 people killed on Christmas Day, and I phoned Associated Press. I was the only photographer there. I've got a shot of a helicopter with a cargo net,
Yes.
with arms and legs sticking out. They're picking up all the bodies, and it was a fantastic shot, photojournalistically and all of that.
Yeah. It sounds great.
Associated Press, Newsweek, all of them. It's not so much of a story. I'm like, what? I got it onto page 3 of a local newspaper. Page 3 of a local newspaper, and I was paid 12 euros for it.
And then you thought, I'm going to do something else.
And then I thought, no, I can't do this anymore.
No.
Can't make money, because I had become used to having almost a double income. And all the money that I had from getting from selling pictures to I would buy all my equipment. My very first camera was a Nikon F3. I was given it by a photojournalist from Newsweek. He's like, "What are you shooting there?" I had a little, we call it mik en druk.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he gave me this camera, and I've been Nikon ever since. There was the F3, and then I bought a second-hand F4, and with all the money that I'd used, and then obviously the 70, 200, 2.8, and now, your life changes.
Yes.
And then I took 6 months paid leave, because back in the day you didn't have to take your leave. So I had been working as a policeman for 6 years, and I had accumulated 6 months worth of leave of vakantie.
Yeah.
And I took 6 months leave, 6 months unpaid leave, and in that year I put a wooden A-frame board out in the street, said Florens Photography, and this is prior to cell phones, and I had my phone there, and I'd sit there and I'd just watch the phone and wait for it to ring. That was during office hours. After hours, I'd walk around the neighborhood putting pamphlets in people's post boxes, all that kind of thing. On the weekends, I'd go to... You must stop me if I talk too much, because I can talk all day.
Yeah,
You've
just a little bit
worked
further,
that
and
out.
then we're going to get a short summary of the rest of your life, and then we switch to Asia.
So I would go to the local school and take sports photographs. I'd do hockey and football and rugby and cricket. I'd shoot in the morning if they've got a sports festival during the day or something like that. And then I would quickly go to the 1 hour lab, because it's film. Go to the 1 hour lab, get the pictures, and then go and sell those pictures to the parents. That's how I'd get my name out there.
Yeah.
And then it started to snowball. And after 1 year, I had built up a business. Not that I was earning more money as a policeman, but I didn't have to be a policeman anymore.
And it was something like 1999,
1997, August 1997.
Yeah. Now we're, to make the shortcut, we're 19 years further, and I mean, we never met before, we don't have to be, but you have become a successful photographer, you're invited to be here.
What happened?
Yes, can you say in a few sentences how you became this internationally famed photographer?
So after 1997, I was marketing myself as every other photographer does, just doing it the way we find naturally and the way you expect to market yourself. And I was shooting 50 or 60 weddings a year, and almost in a way you're validating yourself by how booked you are, how many weddings you have. Like if you had a weekend off, you'd be like, oh, what's wrong with me? Why do these people don't like me? What am I? And I realized after getting married and having children, 2005 maybe, my oldest son was 5 years old then. I was in a position where he's starting to grow up, and now he's starting to do sports events and things like that. And I'm like, Dad's working on Friday, Dad's working on Saturday. I've got no friends, because every time a friend asks you to come out to dinner, sorry, I'm working. Your weekends are a mess. You don't know how your sports teams are doing, all that kind of thing. And around about 2005, 2006, I decided that I couldn't carry on like this, because I'm burning out and I'm not actually making any money. If you worked it out, it's almost, I say this quite often, but it's almost like eating soup with a fork. Yes. You're very, very busy, but you're still hungry. No.
What did you? How did you change that?
How did I change?
How did you get a spoon?
It started. How did I get a spoon? That's a very good question. So it started with me looking outside of my area of expertise, which was photography, and looking at things like how to market yourself, looking at things like neuro-linguistic programming, looking at body language. The different books about how other successful people were running their lives, and how there's a book called The 4-Hour Work Week. All sorts of books. Sally Hogshead's book, How the World Sees You, in terms of triggers of fascination. All stuff that we don't really know, but it's there.
Yes.
It's the subliminal messaging, the non-verbal communication, all that type of stuff. And also what happened was I got asked to do a wedding in a city that was outside of Durban. And I was like all proud. I was like, I got a destination wedding. And that validated me for that amount of time. But when the second one came and I was charging the same price, my wife was saying like, why do you need to go to a different city and make the same amount of money where you could be shooting at the local sports club and be home by 10 o'clock? Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, well, you're right. So what I did was I just tripled my price for that wedding. Yeah. And they booked me. And then I was like, all right, well, that's pretty cool.
Sounds like the right
Now,
track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, because they had money, when I got to that wedding, I realized, I looked around at the guests and the people at the wedding, and I looked around and I was like, hello, this is a different type of person. It's a different market. There's a different mentality. They wear different clothes. They look different. They smell different. They behave differently. This is the market that I want to target. So I changed everything about my marketing strategy. I kept my prices at triple the price, even for the local weddings, and I just completely redesigned my brand, which was very difficult if you've had a brand for 10 years.
Yeah.
If you're only starting, then hold on for a year or two and launch your brand properly. If you're 10 years in, you got a lot of mistakes that you need to cover up that you've done for a long time. So, yeah.
Yep. We're into this market aspects, and I think it's a good moment to bring Eefje in, who's responsible for making...
Well, after this rather uneventful life story, mine's a lot more interesting.
Let's go for it. Bruid en Bruidegom.
Yes, Bruid en Bruidegom magazine. I've been working there now for 8 years. Prior to that, I was actually living abroad for about 7 years, traveling, working. I have a background in journalism, news journalism. So I've worked with several news photographers in my time. But now it's all about the weddings, and I have to say it's a much cleaner, much happier line of work. Yes, Bruid en Bruidegom magazine. We're now the only wedding magazine in the Netherlands.
What is the group of people you aim for with your magazine?
Well, basically anybody who gets married in Holland, but obviously our target audience is sort of late teens to late 30s, I'd say.
Yes.
I think that's our target audience. But obviously, if you're in your 50s and you're getting married, you can still find good ideas in our magazine.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's not aimed at photographers.
No. It's specifically aimed at everybody who's getting married. But obviously, wedding photography is a very large part of what we do because A, we want nice pictures in the magazine.
Yes.
B, we think that your wedding, as beautiful as it is usually just one day or maybe two, and the wedding photography lasts the rest of your life. So we actively support photographers, and we also have our own wedding photography awards program, which is called the Bruid Photo and Film Award.
Yes.
It's now in its 12th year, and it's something that we've set up from scratch. And we basically invite Dutch wedding photographers to send in their best photographs of the past year, past 2 years even. Mm-hmm. And then we gather an international independent jury who then look at all the photographs, and literally we get thousands. Last year was 2,000 photos, and about... Yeah. Well, we've just started the film category, so that's still building, but we had about 70 films or something like that.
Are you also a platform you represent photographers, or do you help them in their how to do their jobs right?
I wouldn't say we're necessarily a practical platform. What we tend to do is expose photographers, to expose bridal couples to different wedding photographers by virtue of us using their photographs, by interviewing them, by giving them the opportunity to publish their work.
So if I would if I would plan to get married,
well, we have this very handy, very handy little booklet called The Album, which, aptly named, and photographers can, they can book a page in there and they show their best photographs. And so that's one way of presenting themselves to bridal couples.
Yeah. What's happening with this kind of social photography? It seems like it's growing as a market. It's more money is being spent.
Yeah,
although I don't think more people get married, or.
No, I think the wedding figures, especially in the Netherlands, are fairly steady. But we tend to see that people are putting a lot of effort into their weddings, and that goes for every aspect of it. Just the place where they get married, the location, the dress, everything. Mm-hmm. So they put a lot of effort into that. And because they put so much time, effort and money into it, they want something to show for it. So they want really, really nice photographs. And I think they also want to show people that their wedding is the absolute best event of the year. And also that's where the photographs come in as well. And on the flip side of that, the photographers are recognizing that a wedding isn't just about the bride and the groom. It's about their whole group of people around them.
Yes.
And they also need to be photographed.
Yeah. How do you look at the market? What kind of people are getting married, and why do they want to spend so much money? If I would like to hire you, if I would marry, let's say at the end of this year somewhere, how much would it cost to let you photograph?
Me specifically?
Yes. I'm already married and not.
Okay. No.
That's
cool.
Not planning to change partners. So.
My pricing starts at around 7,000 or 8,000 euros.
Mm-hmm.
I specifically target higher end weddings,
Yes.
mainly because I want to work less and have time off and be with the family, but produce a very bespoke, unique product for the client. So when I present my weddings to the client, she's going to get 15 or 16 albums. Every single bridesmaid gets their own album. Every groomsman gets their own album. Parents get their own albums and that kind of thing. So I am specifically targeting higher end markets. But I think in terms of the way the wedding magazine works, they have done research on how much people spend on certain aspects of their wedding. And you've also got to understand that to some people it might be an extraordinary amount of money. To other people it might be petty cash.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
It's exactly the same as the food industry. You've got somebody who's prepared to pay 35 euros for a steak, and somebody else who wants to pay 2 euros 50 for a Happy Meal.
Yeah.
So there's a whole variety of clients that are out there, and in terms of what you provide, in terms of a service, the magazine looks at the industry and offers so much advice to their clients through their magazines, through doing research, finding out how much the average wedding is in the Netherlands, and telling people not only in terms of how much the spend is, but then making perhaps pie charts. Do you do things like that? Like you make a pie chart and you say 5% should be spent on this and 10%?
Well, the funny thing is that we've once made the very conscious decision not to talk about money in our magazine.
Okay.
Because no, this is fine. I mean, and there's a very clear reason for that.
Yeah.
Because we want to, you want people to believe that whatever your budget is, you can have a magical wedding. And yes, sure, if you have a budget that you can spend 8,000 on a photographer, then obviously the rest of the wedding is also going to be high end.
Yes.
But even if you have much less to spend than that, it is still able to get, you're still able to get that magical day. And this is why we don't put prices on things, because we don't want people to think, oh, I can't achieve that.
But you don't necessarily have to put prices. You could put percentages.
Yeah.
You could say you should be spending 25% on your venue. Or not saying you should be spending. You should say other people, research has shown that other people spend 10% on their photographer, or 5% on the dress, or something like that. So there are figures that can help you with regards to that. And I think it's a nice decision that you've made not to have specific numbers, because you're excluding you're alienating your market. But in terms of percentages, I like to, because I teach wedding photography as well. I teach other photographers how to run their businesses. And I always say to them, look at a market where you need to be charging about 10% of the total cost of the wedding. So if you look around and her shoes cost more than what you're charging, you should be charging more. And you do have situations like that. When the one wedding that I shot, her tiara that she was wearing was like double the amount of money that she was paying me. And that's when I also realized, hello, what I'm doing here is going to last a long time, exactly what you were saying.
That tiara.
Yeah.
I mean, she can wear that every day.
Yeah.
And what's happening in the field of new technology? Do you have to make movies? Do you have to bring a drone in? Do they want the 360 degrees?
Clients are expecting instant images. So I do a same-day slideshow.
Yeah. Can you also post on Facebook?
Yes.
And the Facebook has a live stream.
I don't do that because in terms of my brand and how I want my brand to be perceived, I don't want people to think that I haven't reworked the images yet. I need them to understand that good work takes time. So what I do is on the Monday after the wedding, I'll post 15 images from the shoot. I'm not going to do them on the same day because that shows that they're not retouched as yet.
Yeah.
So
otherwise
fast,
you never would get to this kind of pictures, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Fast.
How do you do that with your same day shoot then? Do you?
No, because the same day shoot, same day slideshow.
Yeah.
Okay. So same day slideshow. I've got my laptop there. I've got my USB cord hooked up to a projector, and they come up onto a screen. And
they're the untouched images.
Yeah, but your guests are looking at them, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
The guests aren't. It's
no,
not.
No. I was just wondering if you did or if you were actually touching them up as you go.
I do colors and luminosity.
Okay.
So if you've got a little blemish, you're not going to see it.
No.
And you're not going to see it on the day too because you're going to be crying so much. It's so beautiful.
Fair enough.
But yeah, on the day, it's very, very impactful to have a same day slideshow. 30 images, select 30 images, get your DJ to play their favorite song, and you time it where you play your 3 minutes for a same day slideshow. The audience, it's the most amazing marketing tool because the audience sees that and go, wow, that is fantastic. And suddenly you're handing out business cards to everyone. And it's a really good instant, say, right, this guy really is on the ball in terms of that. But in terms of social media, Monday morning, 11 o'clock. And I don't do my own post-production. I outsource that. So I send those 15 files to my retouchers, and they busy doing that, and they've got my Facebook passwords, and they upload. So if I'm shooting on a Monday, it all gets done for me.
Video, is it?
You do have companies that do video and photography together, but I really believe in terms of being a specialist. I want to be known as somebody who is a specialist in photography, and if people ask me, do I know a good videographer, then sure, I'll recommend a good videographer. Yeah. But I don't believe that I want to be there like an Oompa Loompa man with playing the trumpet and the keyboards and the drums at the same time. That's just my philosophy. Yeah. If other people are doing it and they're doing well, then that's cool.
How do you see those trends? From the point of view of your magazine?
Which trends do you mean?
Video, drones?
Well, the video is definitely gaining importance, which I think is a really good thing because, it's a completely different branch of the sport. You've got your wedding photography, which is amazing, and then you've got the moving pictures as well. But like Brett says, you want to make sure that you're good at what you do and don't, expand yourself into two directions that are vastly different. Yeah. We work with companies that do both, but they have a videographer and they have a photographer. They work together. You don't do it all at once, but videography is gaining more importance. Yeah. Drones are still very new everywhere.
And those eagles that come in.
Exactly, they don't like them here in Holland. We've got special eagles who will take them out of the sky. No, they're very new. I haven't seen much. I have seen some. There's some photographers are using them. There's obviously a little bit of issue still with quality of the photographs because you can't quite get the same the quality. Yes. But then you do get a completely different vantage point, which makes it so exciting. Yeah. So I can see a big future in it, but there's still a long way to go as well before it's like a common thing at weddings. Yeah.
And the role of social media, what's happening there?
Social media is so important these days, and it provides a real conundrum for wedding couples. What do they do with social media on their wedding day? Because partly they obviously want to share their day with as many people as possible, but it's not much fun if you have a wedding, you've taken all this time and effort to look absolutely beautiful, and one of your friends posts a picture of you, I don't know, scratching your bum or something like that. Yeah. And everybody who's not invited to the ceremony will already see that picture on Facebook. Yeah. So by the time they show up for the party in the evening, they're like, oh yeah, I've seen your dress. So, there is a dilemma for a lot of bridal couples. Some don't mind at all. Yeah. Others, are trying to find a balance between what they want to have published or don't. and others say unplugged all the way.
Yeah.
You know, just no
Bit of
cameras.
a backlash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Let's see if there are some questions maybe from the people sitting around us. If you have any questions, you can ask it in Dutch too. If you would like to ask them, post them in English.
Obviously doing an awesome job. No questions.
Well, that's good, isn't it? Maybe one more thing. I saw videos from nice big cities all over the world. I saw a desert. Can I book you for every place in the world?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Probably the only restriction that would happen with me personally is the working visa aspect to things.
Yes.
Working in the States is not as easy as you think it is. You can't get working visas. As a freelance ZZP,
Yeah. It's
you
not
know,
a free country in that sense.
Yeah. You've got to go there and say, you know, if you want to take the risk and say that you're a tourist,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
But there are some countries where you have working visa issues. But if it's not a problem, I'm happy to go anywhere.
Yeah.
You know,
where have you been? Dubai?
Where have I been?
Hong Kong?
I've been Australia, Dubai, Zanzibar, Kenya, Italy, Romania, England, France, Spain, Ireland, and America.
Sounds like you have made a good decision in turning the kind of photography that you're making.
Well, you know, with the advent of digital and the advent of the internet, and because clients have so much emotional investment in their wedding, why can't they get a Dutch photographer whose work that they really like to come and shoot their wedding in England? As long as they can get there on time, and if the client can afford them, it's not a case anymore of not being able to get that exposure. Anyone here can get international exposure. You just have a great website that can work anywhere.
Yeah.
So if your work is attractive to people who are getting married in Mauritius, absolutely, they can take any photographer from any part of the world and fly you anywhere, you know, to go and capture their day. And because of that emotional investment, they are prepared to invest financially in that day. And what's happening quite a lot, I think, with regards to the wedding industry is a lot of people are getting married abroad. So
Yes.
a lot of people are getting married outside of their home city, or sometimes they're coming back to get married because the world's changed so much that everyone lives all over the world now. So what people are doing is saying, instead of spending 100,000 euros on a wedding in the Netherlands, they're saying, okay, let's take 60,000 euros and take 15 of our best friends and we'll go to Zanzibar for 4 days and perhaps do that. Or, you know, they live in England and they want to come here. Whoa. They live in England and they want to come here to get married.
Yeah.
So they could come here. So wedding tourism is now something that countries are starting to look at.
Yeah.
You know, say, come and get married in our country. Come and get married in Thailand. Come and get married in Holland. You know, you've got a lot of Asian couples that come here to have their pictures taken at Keukenhof and in the tulips. And this country it's the most beautiful, second most beautiful country in the world.
What's the most beautiful?
Come on.
Still.
Yeah. Of course.
Despite all these things that happen.
Despite the
Belgium,
violence.
right? It's Belgium.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
got to be
Yeah.
Belgium.
Yeah, it's a great
No,
country.
I mean, this
so-
country is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
So why would you not want to come and get married here? I mean, it's a gorgeous place to get married.
Yeah.
You know, because we've grown up, or because you've grown up here, you think like this is normality, but it's not normal. This is gorgeous. This is a beautiful, beautiful
Yeah,
country.
fantastic.
And it's actually the reason why we don't write that much about destination weddings, because we actually, you know, the world is a beautiful place, and people are getting married more and more abroad. But we do have an absolutely awesome country where you can pretty much get married anywhere you like. And we also have a rather amazing selection of wedding photographers here, if I do say so myself.
And
We even
other-
have
and
him.
just curious
And other
about-
services. I mean, florists. I mean, come on, the flowers here.
Exactly, flowers are amazing, you know,
Yeah.
and so we try to, you know, keep it local as much as we can. Not because you know, we don't see the merit in getting married abroad, but the thing is, if you're getting married abroad, you're going to do all those things that people who are getting married in Holland will do. So we just prefer to write about the possibilities within our own country, and if you then get married abroad, you can take all those possibilities with you anyway.
How long is the magazine existing? So when did it start?
We will be celebrating our 35th anniversary in 2 years' time, so 33 years.
That's already a long time.
That's pretty
I
cool.
know.
Yeah.
We're the oldest, only, best, you name it, we're that.
Yeah.
So
Are there other good photographers for marriages except Brad Florens living in
there are so
Amstelveen?
many.
there's
Really.
you know, we have such an enormous pool of talent here that it actually is a challenge for us as a magazine to.
Yeah, because let's say 10, 20 years ago, but maybe that's because I have a journalistic background. People looked a bit down upon the social
Wedding
photographer.
photography was often viewed as a sort of soft side of photography. But it's not
just
that
in it for the
anymore. I
money.
mean, it is so amazing what
Yeah.
these photographers are now doing, and it's it's almost art. It is art. Especially now, you've got some trends that we see a lot of photographers sending photos to us where they have this beautiful landscape and a tiny little couple in them. It's almost like a painting where they've sort of placed this wedding couple in. And it is just stunning, and I can't really say anything about other countries, the wedding photography, well, a little bit, but I think we are definitely somewhere near the top in terms of quality.
Sounds like a great ending for this conversation.
There
Brett and Evia, thank you very much.
Thank you so
very
much
for
Thank
your
you for
attention.
having me.
You're welcome. Thank you.